do you have tension troubles with your sewing machine, or rather you don't know quite what to do with that tension dial or tension button, you are not alone if you are. So over the next couple of videos, this video and the next one, I'm going to cover all things tension with your sewing machine. So in this video, I'm going to go over the basics for you, what your tension dial is, how to adjust it, what happens when it's too loose and too tight, so you know what to look for. And then in the next video, I'm going to do some troubleshooting on some tension issues. So if you're watching this live, as it goes live, you're going to have to wait till next week before the troubleshooting one comes out. If you're watching in a few weeks' time, they'll be both up and I'll link it up at the end. So I am Kim, this is Quote with Kim. Let's get started and look at the basics of your tension on your sewing machine. Firstly then, let's have a look at where the tension disc is, and it's this that we're looking for. Now you might have a disc on top of the machine here, you might have one on the side of your machine here like this, you might have a little slidey button, you might have something on the LCD display. If so, it looked like a little figure of 8 symbol instead of this is the stitch width, this is the stitch length. So you may find you have a third one, depends where it is, with the little figure of 8 symbol. But that's what we're looking for the tension. Now, a bit of a giveaway is where it is settled, if you like, where it sits naturally. Do you like my Christmas nails, by the way? Showing up under the camera. They're due to be changed. But we can have a look here and we can see that this particular machine wants us to have a number 4 as the sort of preset tension. That's where it wants to do its normal stitching at. And we can tell that because we've got the number 3 next to it with a little line going up to the 4, and then we've got the number 5 the other side with a little line between them. If I scroll down, you can see that there are none of those little lines here, and equally as I scroll up the other way, you can see I've got nothing going in those directions either. So your machine will give you this bit of a giveaway because it will have these 3 numbers and it will say, well, this one in the middle is the one that I want you to set me at. So if you're ever unsure about where your machine's tension setting will be, it'll be the one in the middle of where they've indicated. Okay, so sometimes you may find you've got that number with a little square around it, or it's marked out differently in some way, and it'll be that one that you're looking for. Now, normally it is a number 4 or a number 5. It just depends on your machine. So I can't tell you for your machine which one it will be, but find your tension dial or your thing on your I can't say that today, your LCD display here, and then look at where the indication is. Now on the LCD display, let's just go over here. This is a sort of just coming up to a mid-range machine, but this hasn't got the tension set digitally. But you can see here we've got for the stitch width, it's got the zeros in a little greyed out box, and it's got the stitch length here at 2.5 in a little greyed out box. If I change, whoops, those figures, can you see how that comes out of its box? So that tells me that these figures here are the standard settings, and your tension will be exactly the same wherever your tension is. Sometimes it's there, sometimes it's at the beginning, and they shuffle these along. Whatever it says here and it's in the grey box, that is what you're looking for your tension. Okay, so having discovered where that is, let's talk about what happens when we change it, because we can loosen our tension by putting the dial down, or we can increase our tension by going all the way up. But for the purposes of this video, I'm talking about the kind of problems that you might come up against with your tension, because when people are starting out stitching, they're not really sure which dials are which. Now, I've got videos that cover your stitch width and your stitch length, so I'll put those down in the description below this one. But for this video, let's talk about the problems that you may come up against, because what happens when you don't know which dial is which, that you're just turning dials in everywhere in every direction because the machine's not doing what you want it to do. However, the good news is once you've got your machine set where it wants to be set for its presets, then everything will be hunky-dory, as they say. So let's have a look at my little sample that I have stitched. Here we have got some lines that I have, or stitch lines that I've stitched. Now they all look the same from this right side. So this one here is a normal stitch line, and I will show you all this from the reverse in a moment. But this is my normal stitch line. This is where I put that tension dial down to 1, and I did it again with the tension dial down to 0. And then this is where the tension dial went up to 9, right at the other direction. So this is the loose tension and this is the tight tension. So let me switch this over and show you. And being fabric, it's collected every bit of stray thread known to man that happens to be on my sewing table at the moment. So this is our normal stitch line. So this is on standard tension, and it's exactly how we want it to be. It's a nice even stitch on both the back and the front. We can see that if we compare those, they look pretty much the same. And a good indication, if you feel them, that stitch line should feel just nice and even. It should feel almost at the same weight, if you like, as your fabric. It shouldn't really feel any different to that. It's nice and malleable, it moves with your fabric, and everything feels like it should be. Okay, if you're unsure about what it should be because you haven't sewn a stitch line yourself that you're not sure of, just feel your clothes because they're all stitched together. Just feel a seam in your clothes. You'll feel that it feels just nice and natural and nothing fighting with each other. But let's go across here where we've loosened up the tension, and you can see here that our bobbin tension, we could pull this out really easily. Now if you have got, I don't know if I can do this one-handed without holding onto the fabric as well, but normally you can pull that thread and this bottom thread will just come out really easily. Now, quite often what happens if you've got loops behind your fabric, it's because your tension is too loose, in which case you need to put your tension dial back to where it wants to set as its preset. But you can see here, there's not a lot of difference between the 1 and the 0, but you can see that there's a definite difference between a normal stitch line here and then the loose tension here. Can you see that we can see the top thread coming through? Can we see all these little stitches coming through there? And this bobbin thread, well, we could just pull that out very easily. Okay, so let's move on to the really tight tension. And if we look on here, we can see that the top tension, the top thread rather, is almost like it's pulling that bobbin thread too much. So we can see the bottom of the stitch, whereas here the bottom of the stitch is loose, so we can actually see that stitch, and the bobbin thread is just sort of sitting there, kind of. Here it's gone the other way, and the top thread is really tight and it's pulling this bobbin thread. And if we feel this stitch line feels really tight. It feels horrible. It feels like it shouldn't be there. This one just feels a bit loose and like you can pick all the thread out, which indeed you can. And this one over here is a nice normal one. So when we're looking at our problems, if you like, you'll find one of two things. Number one, you'll either have a really tight stitch line, in which case that means you need to loosen up your tension dial. So have a look to see where your tension dial is. Let me just switch up to the dial here. So it might be that you've adjusted your tension dial up too high. So in that case, we need to put it back to where it wants to be. And if your stitch line is really loose and we've got your bobbin thread either looping quite dramatically or just not sitting properly behind here, then it's likely that you're kind of down here somewhere on your tension dial, and we need to go up to the number 4. Okay, so I hope that has helped you find the basics and understand the basics of the tension on your sewing machine and know what to look for. So you should be able to find where your standard tension is on your machine, and don't forget they're all slightly different, so look for those little markers on your machine, and hopefully now you'll be able to understand when it's too tight and when it's too loose and how to adjust it back to the medium again. So have an experiment with some scrap fabric and give it a go. Put your dial up to the 9s or the 8s and the 9s and put it down to the 0s and 1s and see what happens on the back of your practice piece of work, just to find out what your dial does so that you understand. And then in the next video that will be coming up, so if I am live, you will get a holding video just here, but if after a couple of weeks, you will see that there's a video coming up here, and that is going to be all about troubleshooting all the tension on your machine, because there are times where the machine can put that tension out for you. So I hope that is helpful this time. I will see you in next week's video. Bye for now.